So, you know what I have been thinking about? You know how if you listen to lyrics, you will immediately know what series or movie that is from. For example, if I say, "Who are you? Boo, 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 boo." What do you think?
What is that show's name? It's a show. It's a mystery show. It's a crime show.
Okay, let's leave that one for the listeners. Okay, here's another one. Are you ready for this? See the money, wanna stay for your meal. Get another piece of pie for your wife. Everybody wanna know how it feels. Everybody wanna see what it's like.
Sounds like a jingle for a restaurant. I don't know that one. I don't know that one at
Okay.
all.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe our listeners will know that one and then they can comment. Are you
Delete
ready
it.
for this one? I don't think you're ready for this one. I hope you know this one. If you're out on the road, feeling lonely and so cold, all you gotta do is call my name and I'll be there on the
Oh,
next train. Okay, what is that from?
I don't know, but I know the song. This is why I don't join game shows.
Okay, well, listeners, please help us out because clearly Sarah doesn't watch movies or series. I was thinking about that, and then I was thinking to myself, you know, it would be fantastic. Like if someone just listens to our theme song and know that it's our podcast.
One day.
One day more. Okay, do you know what that
One
is
more
from?
dawn. One
Yes, what is
more
that?
day. Oh, that's Les Mis. Oh, that's my favorite. That was my
Uh,
walking music.
that's kind of my hope one day. When someone hears it, they'll be like, I know what that is from. They are that enthusiastic to hear it. But you know, it's like when I hear ABBA, psh, it doesn't
Ooh, ABBA,
involve
yeah,
anyone
that's classic
around
too. You
me.
should sing me some ABBA.
Well, on the high note of ABBA, wait, where's my coffee? Cheers. Alrighty, where's your iced tea?
It's a Bengal cream iced tea.
Ooh, that sounds very exotic. Let's roll into the next episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tea and Tales. I'm Madeline Einal.
And I'm Sarah Sampson. We want to thank everyone for all of your comments. Thank you for following us, listening, and watching. We especially want to thank Sean Johnson and Rochelle Gachow.
Well, I don't know about you, but I am super excited for today's episode.
Today we're talking about beta readers.
Woohoo! Some of you might ask, what is a beta reader?
The beta readers are those people who read your draft for you before you send it to editors or agents. They help you understand your manuscript from the perspective of a reader and sometimes another author who might be able to help you. But today we also have brought in a special guest. Our guest today is Rose Lawrence. Let's bring her on. What you drinking today, Rose?
Peppermint tea.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think it's actually a 3-mint. Yeah, just plain old peppermint.
Nice.
Very
I love
nice.
it.
You're joining Sarah with her, what iced tea do you have?
Bengal cream iced tea.
There you go.
I don't even know what that is. That's great.
It's very good. Rose, it's great to meet you. And I especially am excited because this is one of Nell's favorite beta readers. And I'm going to say that because she talks about you all the time. And when we were talking about this, you were the first name that she was like, we have to have Rose. So welcome. Welcome to Tea and Tales. I wanted to ask you, what genres do you write in?
Great question. I'll let you know. Currently, I say romance, but the beta group says otherwise. So I started off writing in a classic style of going from 0 to I'm going to write a trilogy, a fantasy trilogy with like 12 different characters set over 3 different worlds. I wrote 2 of those books and I was like, oh, I just need a break. So then I was like watching a lot of rom-coms, and that's always my sort of palate cleanser book to read. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll try and write one. And it just felt like a relief because you don't have to make up the world. There's a lot that you have to explain in fantasy, isn't there? And not necessarily meant to explain it, but like show it. And I don't know, there's quite a high jumping off point, and I was doing it in a very like high fantasy kind of way. So it was a relief just writing something that was set in the real world. But then of course I've added a magical twist. So So
Magical realism,
Of course.
love it.
and I didn't realize at the end, but like I love books that make me cry.
What is one editing rule you live by?
Listen to now all the time. So that basically means don't let your ego get in the way. So when you've maybe got some comments from beta readers and you're reading it being like, yeah, that doesn't apply to me. Now reader likes to pick me up on the phrase there was. She's like, be more active, please. And the first few times I read it, I was just like, but I love the sound of there what, like I don't need to be active all the time. Like, come on. Like, sometimes you can just say there was. And I still believe that. And still fight it a little bit. But but overall, when you actually do go in and you get rid of that sort of ego of this is how I want it to sound and it sounds good to me, and you try it, it usually does make it better.
Yes. Okay, we have it all on record now, right? Right.
It's not that the other way was bad. It's just that sometimes in having to think deeper about how you're going to get this information across so that you don't say those words that are so easy and nice for you to say, you end up getting a more beautiful way of saying it. And you can just convey a lot more information. So my one editing rule, if you don't have now, is just to put your ego aside when you are going back through the manuscript.
I think you get different types of beta readers. And I feel Rose and I have a, it sounds weird, but like a more intimate beta reading relationship, because in the beginning, when I really didn't know her and really didn't speak or anything like that, I would highlight it. I'm like, passive voice. But as we like shared more pages and we kind of got to know each other's personalities,
that's gone.
Now every time that I see it, I'm just like, disc. And so it's like there's people you can do that with and there's people you can't do it with. And it's nice to have that balance of different type of beta readers, but that you also have.
Definitely each beta reader brings a different feeling to it and a different voice to what you're reading. And so having more than one, if you disagree with them, it's good to see if other beta readers agree with them. If 3 people say it, think about changing it. There are different readers who look at different things and it's still not working for all of them. You might want to think about it.
I had somebody who I was in a little beta reading group for fantasy, and that kind of dropped off as I was writing more romance, and she was quite early along in her manuscript. She wanted to get the gang back together, but she kind of only wanted me because she liked the way I was giving the feedback. And the other one was maybe a little bit too, I don't know, maybe brisk or something. I'm not quite sure, but it just made me think about the beta thing of how sometimes you click with what people are saying, but it's not necessarily that the other people aren't bringing something valid, because sometimes they're just saying something in a harder to hear way. And sometimes you actually need somebody to say it. And it's about having a thick skin. And I think from doing the constant beta reading sessions, you do slowly build that up, and it kind of prepares you for when maybe you start to get reviews and publish, and maybe when you're going through the agenting process, if you're doing it traditionally, because people are going to say no all the time or say it's rubbish. And if you're used to people picking at your sentences or at your plot, then I think you're going to be a bit more used to taking it on the chin.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest advantages to having beta readers, is being able to understand what readers may not agree with you still, but be able to be like solid in that book. I know what's in there is what I want to be in there.
I never discovered how much it helps me as a writer until I started actually giving feedback to other people, is that this is going to sound terrible, but it's not terrible. It's like, it's so much easier to find fault in someone else's novel, or to find plot holes, or to find filler words, or to find passive voice than it is in your own novel. What I have learned, though, is that by reading other people's work and by noticing what they are doing, I say wrong in quotation marks, some of that really just snaps in you as a writer. And then once I go back to writing my stuff or self-editing my things, then I'm like, I remember this person did this in their manuscript while I was editing it, so I should probably not be doing that when I'm editing my novel. I feel like as a writer, I have learned so much from beta reading other people's work, and I have also gained so much from other people reading my stuff. You need those extra eyes to be able to show you the things that you are basically missing, especially like this novel that we are doing in our beta reading group right now. Honestly, like the first go, they were like, what's happening here? Like, why is she doing this? Why is she doing that? I was just like, I do not need this negativity. Thank you very much. But then when you sit down and one person is like, no, I got confused here. But the other two were like, no, we understood what you mean. Then it's that like, okay, I feel I'm fine.
A lot of people, when you write your book, you either have problems at the beginning, the middle, or the end. And I think that's something that beta readers do for you, is help you see you're so close to your story that you need them to be able to tell you this isn't starting in the right place, or this beginning is really rough or really expository or explanatory, anything like that. Or to say, your end kind of dragged, or your middle was sagging a bit. How can we spice that up? And then to brainstorm with them is one of the best things as a writer, because you only have so many thoughts in your own head. But if somebody else can say, ooh, I'd love if this happened, you could reformulate how to fix that and move forward with excitement.
I think that's the difference between having like a beta group and people that you, I guess, like, is yours for free, or is yours like, do you trade? Yeah, so I think I've noticed that's the big difference, because when I first started, I did get some beta reads, but I got them on Fiverr. So you pay, and it was really useful just for that feeling of like, it's the first time you've ever had anybody read anything you've written. And so it feels really exciting, and you don't really know where to get any kind of feedback from. So it's great. And they gave really in-depth stuff. Some people were commenting in line, and then they had their report, but you couldn't do that bit that you were saying afterwards. You couldn't do the brainstorming and what do you think about this? A lot of them were treating it more of like, this is how it is. So I'll critique it as it is, and not give you a way to change it. The only other person I did have that that was when I paid for a developmental editor, really after I'd written the first book, and she just completely like eviscerated me.
Aww.
Which was like, it was horrible, but also like once you step away and you come back, it was really useful, and I changed loads of how I did it, and I think it was better. But yeah, I think having the group where you can bounce off each other, it just changes things, and it also makes you feel less alone.
Very true.
I think one of the trials of having beta readers is having too many voices. If you find yourself getting to the point where you just don't know what to do with the feedback and you just keep getting people to read some pages, one of two things is happening. Either you have so many voices that you have forgotten what your voice in the novel is, or you need to go and do some learning of the craft so that you can understand what it is they're really saying. To be able to think that logically through, that it's not that line that's the problem, it's 3 chapters ahead that I have the problem, takes a lot of practice and skill. And so you have to make sure you're learning the craft consistently so you can apply that feedback properly.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's still going to be your novel. It's still going to be your voice in it, and you don't want to lose your voice. And so, as lovely as it is to have other people's point of views and other people's feedback on certain stuff, I think that's where you kind of have to decide what feedback you're going to take, what feedback you're not going to take. And that's also kind of where the thick skin kind of comes in to be like, okay, yes, what you said hurt me very much, and I feel like my character was perfect the way it is, but it's fine, I will change it. Versus, you know what? No.
The other side is also being able to give the feedback properly and know when what you're saying is your own desire and how you would write it. If it's that, stop. Don't go like that. It's not your book. But if it's a problem that as a reader, I just can't get through this, or I feel like something's missing, if you put it in that way, I feel like I need this, I feel like this is going to happen, then the author can take that in and be like, do I want my reader feeling that way right now?
Yeah.
And also, so I always say when I beta read someone's work, I'm just like, I'm just one reader. That's just my point of view. This is how I read novels. So you can take it or you can leave it. But also, I feel I would be a terrible nonfiction beta reader because, first of all, I don't read nonfiction to begin with. I can't for the life of me. No, that's not my thing. I don't vibe with that. And so I feel that I would not be a good beta reader for that because my personal opinion of not liking nonfiction would fall into all those comments. As a writer, you have a base that you work off of. You have a foundation that you work off of. And each of us as writers have that foundation. And then depending on your genre, that kind of pops up as a building. And so if you as a romance writer want to beta read a thriller, you are more than welcome to do that. You just need to understand that genre to be able to beta read it. Because if I go in there and I'm like, oh yeah, but there's going to be like a little love affair between the serial killer and the hitchhiker, and that person's going to be like, huh? I don't think so, but thank you, question mark.
Like I really felt like the kidnapper had a vibe with the kidnappee. I was waiting for them to kiss.
Well, that brings up a good point that I have liked feedback from people who aren't fantasy readers, who aren't sci-fi readers, because they look at it from a completely different perspective. I can really see, is my world building working? Because if they're getting lost and confused, I need to make sure my language is a lot more clear, because my fantasy readers are just going to push that believe button from the beginning. Unless I do something really outrageous, or somebody who isn't a fantasy reader, like Nell, when she read my new prologue to one of my books, she was very good at being like, I'm not sure what's happening here.
So we talk about beta readers, but then we have also something called alpha readers.
Alpha readers are pretty easy to explain, because an alpha reader is anybody who reads your manuscript either before it's completed or as a first draft. And this is tricky. You have to find good alpha readers because they have to be able to look over a lot of things and just look at the plot line and the character arcs. They have to be able to think developmentally, because everything is going to change after they're done reading, so that when it goes to the beta readers, they can now really look at the reader experience. So there's another type of beta reader called a sensitivity reader. And a sensitivity reader is basically just anybody who is reading because you have a minority in your novel that you want portrayed correctly. Their main job is to go through that novel, watching specifically for that character and the way other characters are interacting with them, and making sure things like cliches are taken out or stereotypes about that specific group of people. They help you make sure that it's running smoothly, and people who read it aren't going to, one, get the wrong impression about that group of people, or two, be in that group of people and feel misrepresented.
So we have talked a lot about beta readers, alpha readers, and sensitivity readers. And I think the main question would be, how do we get these beta readers? Rose and I actually met because there is also this other lovely podcast called The Shit No One Tells You About Writing, which is hosted by Bianca Mare, who is also a South African, and Carly Waters and Cece Lyra. What they do, I think it's once a quarter, where Bianca does a beta reading matchup. So then I think you pay like $20 and then she matches you up with someone. So you basically fill out a form and then you write like in what time zone you are, you write what kind of genre you write, and then you will be basically put in a group with the people who are in the same time zone as you are and the people who write the same genre. So that's one way to find beta readers. Sarah, any other ways?
The way I've usually done it is I go to writer groups and then I say, does anybody want to read the first 10 pages? And when they read that and give me good feedback and we click, then I might offer, hey, do you have time to read more? And then see what more they want to read. Or they can tell me, no, I don't have time, even if they just like didn't like beta reading for
Which
me.
is
They can
perfectly
say, no,
fine.
I don't have time. Yeah, but you find the good matchups that way, and of course, swapping your manuscripts with other people. I also find people who specifically work in things that I have in my novel. I have some doctors and nurses who beta read for me to make sure that the medical stuff is right, and network through other people. And then you really get reader feedback because they're not authors, but they are professionals, so they know how to give good feedback.
So how do you get them? Do you just go to the doctors and say, "Hey, do you want to read
I
my
got
book?"
one that way. A lot of them also come from just having gone to college, and you network with the people at college who go into different things. And now, 20 years later, they're professionals in their industry. And I go back to them and I say, hey, friend, you're in the aeronautical industry. Can you help me with
Well, how about you, Rose? How have you found beta readers?
With the matchup with Bianca, and then on Fiverr. When I first started, it was like friends and family, and then I quickly realized that you
They're
probably
the
need
worst
some
type
more,
of beta readers to
yeah,
have.
people who are actually going to be honest, but also have something useful, like to help make something better instead of just being like, yeah, I got to page 9. And that's about it. I just got busy, so I haven't looked at it. And you're like, okay, so. But when did you start losing interest?
I think beta readers don't realize that if you did stop reading because you lost interest and just didn't care to go back, I need to know where that was and why that feeling hit you. And you're not going to hurt my feelings.
I think people need to understand that beta readers don't want to hurt your feelings. They want to make you a better writer. If everything we said on this episode does not gel with you at all, I think the one thing you just need to remember is beta readers are there to help you. They are there to make you a better writer, and they're not there to see how many sleepless nights you have and how many tears you cry on your pillow.
I'm fairly new to the beta reader thing. It was so nerve-wracking to actually like send someone my pages. And I think it's quite common that people, because I see it on Reddit and things, people getting quite cagey about their writing, thinking someone's going to steal it. And actually, I think if somebody's willing to beta read for you, they're generally a writer as well. Like it's not something to be as protective over, because we spend so much time on our writing that I think you get in a bubble and you think, this is the best thing ever. Everyone's gonna want this, or not. But like, but you just think it's something that someone's gonna want to steal from you. And actually, the more open you are with people, the more I think you do become a writer. You feel more confident in in what you're doing. You have to get it out of your house, out of your head. You have to make it real in the outside world. And then I think you can look at it more objectively. Don't be scared sending someone your work, because the worst that can happen is that they say, it's not for me. And that is not a reflection on you. That is just a reflection on what they want to read.
Exactly. Rose, thank you so much for joining us on Tea and Tales today. I have absolutely enjoyed your comments and your perspective on things. It's great. And for all of our listeners out there, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, Rose, for being here. It has been such fun. If you liked this episode and if you want to hear more, go to that purple icon on your device and go give us 5 stars so that we can go up, 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 up to the top. And then you can go follow our community on Instagram and Facebook at Tea and Tales Podcast, and on X and TikTok at Podcast Tea Tales.
Happy writing.
Bye!